Hello and welcome to another episode of Pokémath. My name is Stefan Eriksson, and today we have reached Sun and Moon Part 2 of tier listing all these beautiful full art supporters. And with me today to do this Part 2 here, I have Stephen Kent from PlaySkape Games. Hello, Stephen.
Gotta catch 'em all, everyone. welcome to the video. Welcome to Part 2. I'm very happy to be here and very happy to look at some busted full art supporters.
Well, there's sure some of them are surely busted. No argument there. But we've already been through a few. This is the fourth in a row. We still got one more to go after this, where we're going to deal with all the Sword and Shield ones. But Sun and Moon is a massive block of full art supporters. Some better than others, arguably. That's no secret. But yeah, what do we do? Why am I doing this? Well, just for those of you who haven't watched these previous episodes, I'm doing this because having a tier list like this, it can be a nice input for a price analysis that I'm actually doing these days as well next to this. So as input for my analysis, having a tier list of these supporters here that I can rank and relate to the prices is a very nice tool for some hopefully cool analysis I can publish for you guys later. So I have asked different YouTubers helping me out with this, and well, today we have PlaySkape Games. I can do this. And, well, that is Stephen Kent. So I'm really happy that you had time, Stephen. Thanks again for joining me.
Oh, thank you for the invite. I need to get used to collaborating more with people, and I need to try and reach out to more people myself, because I only ever do collabs when people reach out to me. So I need to find some other people to collaborate with. And
well, I'm happy you're here. I'm really happy
with being friendly, chatty YouTube person to other people as well.
Don't worry, it will come. You're doing fairly well on your channel, really. So I remember you started shortly before me, right? If I don't remember wrong.
So the first one was a Guardians Rising pre-release video from from April 2017, or a long
that was way earlier than I thought.
Yeah, but I only went to 2 to 3 regular videos a week after the UK lockdown started in like April of 2020, because I had obviously a lot more spare time on my hands without traveling most weekends. And yeah, I've been averaging 3 to 4 videos a week, mostly pack openings, but I do weekly mail videos, PSA graded returns, and
they're beautiful. Those cards, huh?
They are lovely. And every so often I will do like reviews and news, like set list reviews, because I still enjoy the competitive side of Pokemon. I still play a lot. I've just made the team challenge top 16. 1 or 2 stores in the UK have made the top 16 with
Congratulations.
Thank you, with the Crawley team, and I still play. I've qualified for all 3 Players Cups knockout stages, so hopefully again for number 4. So I try and do a mix of everything. I used to do a lot more competitive stuff, but I haven't really got the time for both that and the more collectible side of it, which sort of more ties in nicely with my business.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see how fast it actually went, because your channel is growing really well still. It's really nice to see, and a lot of things happening over in your place. And I enjoy especially your mail videos. I really like to see what's coming in there sometimes.
Yeah.
You get some amazing cards in your hands basically every week, and prices has exploded, which is also one of the reasons why we're making this tier list, right? Try to get some explanation why some cards are more expensive than others, even though they may competitively not be very good. And it may be 2 versions of the same card, one more pricey than the other. But yeah, let's see how this goes today. So without further ado, Stephen, the first one I got for you, though, I'd love to hear your opinion to set a nice benchmark for today. Because when I did part 1 with Joe from Omnipoke, we opened with a solid F tier. It was like boom, and then the tone was set. So maybe we start with F tier. I don't know. I'll leave that to you. But I got Morty. What do you think about Morty?
Morty.
And not the guy from Rick and Morty, but Morty.
Yeah, Morty. I've got all the supporters in front of me, and I just need to vote. Yeah. So I swear I saw this once in a deck at some point, but it's not been. I don't believe it was ever regularly used in any kind of various way, because it's so situational, because very few Psychic decks will only just play Psychic Pokemon. They need support Pokemon, they need other things, and yeah, it's probably and also like I don't really recognize Morty as much of a character, so I can't imagine like the collectability or the playability side of it would be very high. So I think F is probably quite reasonable in that spectrum.
Indeed, I did not expect anything else. I was testing you, right? No, if you're gonna come and say this was anything higher than F, we're in for a tough day. But this is indeed a solid F tier. So for people on the seeing here on the screen, I just put Morty down, bottom F to open the day. That's a strong opening, but maybe it gets better. It will certainly get better because we got some real goodies in store for you here today as well. And I can already tell the next one line here is a whole lot better. So we heard Steven talk about not seeing in many decks. Well, this one, I can guarantee you will see it in a lot of decks, and you played multiple copies, and the card was pretty, and his name is Professor Elm's Lecture.
Wow, what a card.
Yeah, what a card. Like, we go from F to something a whole lot better already, I think.
Yeah, so like when Bridget rotated, I believe it was the 2018 rotation. This was the best way for you to use Tapu Lele to get a setup for your stage 1 and stage 2 decks that used a lot of 60 HP Pokemon. And for example, in the case of Zorak Lycanroc, you were able to grab Ditto Prism, Zorua and Rockruff, and all the other various stages. There weren't that many other stage 1 or stage 2 decks apart from.
No, it was mostly that. And for people who just saw on my screen, they saw a giant Elm appear because I obviously did the cool one of forgetting of putting Elm in as a picture, so now they can see all this pro cutting live. So we got Elm here, and I'm just gonna make a guess here, Steven. So based on your the playability was way better. It was one of the most prime cards, especially when Bridget rotated out, of course. So I'm gonna guess where you're gonna put it now and see if I'm correct. You can't see where I'm dragging it right now, but I want to see if see what you guys are saying out there. Remember, if you disagree or agree, let us know. We got a comment section, right? That's what it's for. So what do you think?
So the key was the card was key in that deck specifically, but I think outside, as soon as as soon as like Zorak rotate, like actually what was it, Lost Thunder? Yeah, it was the same block, but it was good, but it wasn't as sort of multi-purpose as some of the other cards, like let's say Green's Exploration or some of the other things. It probably should, because also I really like the art. I'm a huge Cyndaquil fan. It's tough. I'd probably sneak it more into the A tier more than the S, but it's definitely A or S. But I'd personally myself put it in the A tier. I think just because you needed to play 4 copies, and it relied heavily on the if you couldn't draw into it naturally, it relied heavily, and it was a dead card obviously late game as well. Whereas a card like Green's Exploration was live pretty much throughout the entire game.
I like your argumentation here. It's really good. And I put it also in A tier. So that was good. It was floating around SA, but I also dropped in an A. And you're absolutely right. Like in the beginning of the game, this card was strong. If you open with this card in your opening hand, you were like, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. But later it was just, okay, discard fodder, deck thinning, you name it. Something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And but strong A tier card. Even maybe S. But, if you guys, any of you listening or watching this out there disagree, well, let us know, because this is just the two of us putting it in here. But let's go.
Leave a comment below.
That is indeed true. No, Whitney. Whitney. So that's some people really like this artwork. It's a lot of hearts. It's very pink, and a lot of people, they like that. I can say for the playability, it's somewhat less, but I must admit, I've actually played this. 4 copies, of course, because, great copy. Great to play 4 off, of course. And have you played it before, Steven, this card?
No. But I think I do vaguely remember some people using it because there was a lot more ways to interact with your discard and get, you had, I think, Lost Thunder, I think Versus Seeker might have been legal for one format potentially, or I think when Whitney came out, and obviously, decks that recycle. There's a lot more stuff back then that you could recycle. Get your supporters a bit easier, I think. It's definitely not F tier, and I think especially because of the art, it's probably like a high tier. If we're going like on by the waifu tier, it's probably like an A or S tier waifu. But
Yeah, but we shouldn't weigh that in. So I had that discussion when
I,
Lily came around last time. Oh, that was yeah.
but as a whole, it's probably I probably would say it's an E card.
Yeah, you're absolutely true, and not in terms of an expedition card, but a decent E tier card. You're absolutely right. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree that it just had some playability was okay, and well, now comes one of the hat ladies. Like for people who don't know this, there's more than one, and the first one I have in line is Dana,
Mm-hmm.
and well, what you can play this if you're active as a stage 2. That's not bad. Well, that's a condition that's pretty strong these days, or in the sense that we don't see that many stage 2 cards. And what can you do then? You can search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them in your hand. That's pretty strong. But you need to have a stage 2 active.
Yeah,
That kind of talked it down again, didn't it?
yeah. A lot of these hat ladies, I don't believe ever sort of saw much play as supporters in their own right. You only, I think, I can't ever remember anyone saying like play like one copy of
No,
it or one copy of Beta or whatever.
I
It was
think,
only, only to go with that Rayquaza deck that was like tier 2 at best, with Rayquaza GX. So
I'm going to make the bold proposition here that you have 3 hat ladies that's going to be lower tier than one. One's going to be bumped a tier because that was the one you played it for. I think so.
oh yes, absolutely. You needed Morgan to get the
Indeed.
you needed Morgan to get the combo off. So yeah, probably. But they again, the arts are beautiful. Unlike there is arguments that some of them could have been played. The problem is there was a lot better supporters available in slightly different formats. You could have potentially seen the argument either for Evelyn Nita or Dana, and they came in quite clutch in certain situations when you were playing the Rayquaza Hat Ladies deck and you just needed to play one of them. You didn't have access to the Morgan or whatever. So I don't think they're F tier just because like beautiful. The arts are beautiful as well, and but
No, I think we got a bunch of solid E tier cards here, to be honest.
fair enough. So yeah, but they didn't see much play on their own, but I think potentially just even the fact that you needed them in the deck to make the Hat Ladies work, that they still makes them a bit more more usable, and they had effects and text that was slightly better than Morty.
Yeah, well, true. If you're referencing Morty here, for instance, like that card was just, well, I'm sorry to say it was trash, but it was trash. So,
I mean,
we do
like
have that.
Nita, like put an energy card from your opponent's active Pokemon on top of their deck.
Yeah, I have to scroll a little bit because if people can see on my screen, I'm actually scrolling through a lot of these different ones.
Yeah, so Dana. I mean, Dana's probably one of the weakest because that stage 2 requirement was you're never going to see that in the Rayquaza deck. Whereas
Yeah, and then the question then becomes like, were there others, for instance, Nita, which we're going to talk about in a moment, was that significantly better to bump it to a D tier? Well, we will get around to that. But after placing Dana in E tier, I got another card for you first, Steven, which I believe has a much higher tier than E, and we're talking about Erica's Hospitality.
yes,
It's a pretty card. I think it looks really nice, and it's definitely not S tier material or something like that. I would like to scrape that off, but I would like also to say that this card definitely preserves solid draw. It could still even be useful. Well, right now it's not even terrible. Often there's just better choices, but as that if you need one extra draw card in your deck, then this one was typically bumped in as a one-off. You see that once in a while, and if you're in a heavy Eternatus meta, this was very nice to drop on them to draw like a solid 8 cards or more.
absolutely, yeah. So this was even before because it came out in Team Up. Like Eternatus came out a year and a half later. I swear that there was a lot more decks like during the Team Up and some parts of the Unbroken Bonds format that Erica's Hospitality was just still like still a very solid option because obviously we didn't have Marnie back then. We still had Cynthia, but we didn't have the disruption element from Marnie. We didn't have Reset Stamp until Unified Minds. So people often would use Erica's Hospitality 2-3 copies because there's a lot of the time especially in the case of decks like Zoroark GX, Zapdos Jirachi, like sometimes like they'd fill their bench up quite quickly, and then you'd get a reasonable amount of still get a reasonable amount of cards from, and then keep in your hand. I think there was one or two decks in particular that I can't remember off the top of my head because this was like 2 years ago now, but there was one or two decks in particular that
It is.
they
It is.
that
It
they
is a nice card. I'm not going to
that
argue
they
against that.
they didn't discard their hand, and they didn't really ever have chunky hand sizes, and they got a lot more value from Erica because they could always fulfill that first requirement of having 4 or less, I think. But it was very situational, yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to hear my opinion on this one, I think this looks like a C tier card in my opinion. Something it's nice in the middle. It's not terrible. It's situationally quite good, but not everybody would play it.
No, there is argument for B tier because when it's released, there was a lot less decent. I think there was a lot less decent sort of mid-game drawing options. Whereas, like even now, Marnie is just because you get the disruption at the same time.
Yeah, okay, I can see where you're going at here. And then let's just face it, the card looks nice too. That should also help.
yeah, absolutely. Kanto Gym Leader, just very, very popular. And
yeah, I'm willing to accept a B tier on that. That's fine by me.
Mm-hmm.
And next up is a Hat Lady. And this one says draw 4 cards, but there's of course a requirement, and your exit has to be a stage 1.
Yeah, this is probably one of the weaker ones. Because seen Erica's Hospitality, where you don't have any requirements, and again in the Rayquaza deck, you're not playing any stage 1s a lot of the time. It's like the main version. Yeah, so it's probably obviously because it was part of the combo with the Hat Ladies, you can make the argument that it should still be an E tier, but based on the text alone, even if you ignore the effects of the other one, if it wasn't for the fact it was part of the combo, it would probably be F tier. But
well, that doesn't mean we cannot dump this in F tier, because I still think this is strictly worse than Dana. I still think this is strictly worse. So a case could definitely be made for putting Evelyn down in F tier.
Mm-hmm. It was just more anything that was part of the combo, but even then that deck was only like, at tier 2.5, 3 at best anyway. So F tier still seems reasonable. Again, it's not a very popular character either. I had to look up who these people were. They were part of the Battle Subway or something.
Yeah, I also had to look it up because wait, what again? Where are they from? Wait, But well, I'm just gonna skate on because we got a lot to cover today, ladies and gentlemen. There's so many amazing supporters here, but also less amazing as we've seen already. We're still missing a spot up in S tier. We haven't seen any S tier candidates yet. Well, Elm was close, but I don't think this one either. This one is Ingo and Emmett. Not bad, but not top either. Like, it was nice that you had the choice. I like the choice element. But for the rest, meh.
Yeah, so what made there was one card that you could, I think that was from the previous block, that way you had the choice between, I think it was either switching or doing like the draw option.
So we're talking about Tate and Lysa, for instance.
Tate and Lysa, yeah. So like the two effects on Ingo of Emmett are very, very similar to each other.
Yeah.
How often, like, I mean, maybe nowadays if we had Marnie and in the same format as Ingo and Emmett, and it's team up, so you can still play the two. Like, theoretically, you can make the argument now for
to counter opponent's Marnie. If you drew this card, you can draw your hand back. Actually,
if you desperately want, if you liked your cards on the bottom, you could get those back. Or if you hated the cards that they Marnied, you could then Ingo and Emmett the top 5 instead. But
so we're gonna fast forward to the next regional final, Players Cup 4, and see people play this exactly based on your argument, right? Ta-da!
Absolutely. I can't remember playing it myself, but it's still like anything that gives you more cards to draw than Hop or Roller Skater is probably still worth more than being F tier. So it's probably somewhere between E and D. It's definitely not bad, and it's still a good budget draw card if you're making a budget deck for someone. And
I'm also willing to D tier this because I do think it's a nice card, and the option that's just that it has this option makes it nice. So I'm just going to D tier this also for the sake of then we have something in D tier. It looks nice.
And if you use resource management, you can draw into your cards straight away.
Oh yeah, I love the Oranguru argument. Sold. There we go. Perfect. So what about Jasmine? Search your deck for some metal and some more metal if you were going second.
Yes. So this, I swear I saw someone play it in in a Metagross GX. Also, I can't remember the exact metal deck. There was some kind of metal like stage 1 or stage 2 deck that I don't know. People might have played this in Doublades, the tool drop deck.
Oh yeah, that would actually make perfect sense though.
tool
I
drop
haven't
deck.
played it myself. I'm gonna quickly say to everybody out there, I have not played this card myself. And
Yeah.
if you were to ask me, we're balancing between E and F on this one because I do think the usability is so low, and even if you had a deck where this would be a perfect fit, say anything after turn 1, the card is just
Absolutely. But unlike Morty, it's not as late game. At least you're getting the metal Pokemon, and there are different metal Pokemon that have abilities. You can find a Jirachi or other stuff. So and I actually did see this card be played in, like, I think it was the tool drop deck and maybe one other like random stage 1 or stage 2 metal deck. So it did see more play than Morty, and it is Jasmine is a popular character, and there is a Pokeball on the card art as well, which is a bonus. So it probably fits more into E for me, I think.
that's also fine. I just shoved it into E actually based on that. That's enough just to bring it out. And with that quickly said, we come to another hat lady, the 3 out of 4, and this time it's Morgan. And we already discussed it a bit. Morgan is the better one because that pulled off the combo, right? And based on that argument alone, I would D-tier it immediately.
DT, yeah. I mean, I don't know about the exact rank, how strong the Rayquaza deck was. I did see it around, but I don't know if anyone had any success with it in a couple.
But it's not more like I think there's of course more decks, and of course anybody out there, if you actually played this card in any other deck than say Rayquaza or Rayquaza, let us know because I would love to know this. But the card itself, like I know the requirement was pretty strict that you had to have all these supporters in hand, but you could pull it off, and when you did, you can literally go from a board state of nothing to a complete dominating board state if you're lucky enough,
Absolutely, and I believe the deck used to run like 3 or 4 copies of Tapu Lady GX. So if you're always one short, you could just, or even, can you use multiple Wonder Tags in the same turn?
No. Oh my god, it's not even that long ago. I'm supposed to know this. I played so many Tapu Lele.
That's not something that would normally ever pop up, is it? Like,
No, actually, oh my god, like I should know this just on top of my head directly, but no, I forgot that because I don't play.
You can play multiple Wonder Tags in the same turn because obviously you can only play one supporter card in the same turn.
That makes sense. Why? Oh my god.
Yeah.
We got this on camera, ladies and gentlemen. We forgot how many Wonder Tags you could play.
Apart from Hat Lady, when will this ever pop up? Because you're always going to be playing your supporter from, you Wonder Tag, you play your supporter. You're not going to want another Tapu Lele.
Yeah, and you also need to play 4 Tapu Leles in your deck, and if your name was not Tort Redcliffe, you might not have done it.
I vaguely remember like one of the Drampa GX like their early decks just after like Sun and Moon came out. I swear they had like 3 or 4 Lele's.
Yeah, but and you're right. I know that, but I'm gonna D-list it, D-tier it in this case here, unless you want to E-tier it.
Personally, I would E because I don't remember like playing against, but I think because it's the only one of them I actually saw play, and the effect is theoretically in a vacuum. It's very powerful, and you could even use it for Igglybuff, Cleffa, and Togepi GX as well.
Oh yeah, now when you mentioned that could be fun, like really fun. Or
good expanded deck potentially.
Or Slowdog, that would have been fun.
Absolutely.
Thrilling times, I tell you, thrilling times. And before we get to the last hat lady, there's one guy coming in between here.
Ooh.
And some niche uses I've seen. But what do you think about Nanu?
Nanu.
You could pull off some really interesting combos with this card, though. And even today, and this is again from our good friend Sander Wojcik, where you can load up an Axew, I think it is, on the bench because it cannot be dragged out by boss's orders. And then you could just use Nano to swap it with, say, Yveltal or something like that and take knockouts. Like, it has some cool combo uses, but
I have seen this card be played before. So the main issue is for anything from like 2019 onwards is once the rotation hit in like the summer of that year, or I believe it was.
Yeah.
Or with Tapu Lady GX gone, one-off supporters just knife those and instantly.
Yeah, I know.
Turn the value because you couldn't find them you'd have to draw into them manually. So like it's the whole thing with like playing Jasmine. Like you couldn't just play one Jasmine. You need to play like 3 or 4 to have a chance to get the effect off. To get the busted effect.
I agree. That's also why we're talking a lower tier, obviously.
Yeah, but Nanu is decent. I can't remember my playing it myself, but I have seen it in lists, and the effects there are lots of weird combos that I can't really think of at the moment that probably could have been really good with it, and D seems very reasonable.
Yeah, but that's also okay, like, because you did have some cool combos. Like, I've also seen some people playing around with Spiritomb with this because of the damage.
Yes.
That would have been, super cool combos, and swap in for Spiritomb. And nowadays, you could play it nowadays because you got Cape of Toughness or Giant Cape or whatever they call it, buff the hit points, and then you can actually swap in for Nano and you can actually do some serious damage.
Yeah, yeah. And
But
it's just a nice little surprise card as well. And in obviously the problem is nowadays all the tournaments are open deck lists, so you can see these things coming off a mile ago. But if you're playing like
just wait till we get back to real events again.
You have no idea what might pop up from a person's deck. So this was probably a good surprise for cups and stuff as well.
Yeah, and speaking of surprises and stuff, this one wouldn't have been a surprise if you've seen any of the other hat ladies in the deck. You knew this card was coming, and I'm talking about Nita. And I'd like to comment on one thing on Nita. I think the card is absolutely bad, because the effect is terrible. Because you're literally giving the energy back, they can just attach again, and yeah, that was it. Like, you're effectively just, unless you had a combo that dealt with something on the top of their decks, it was bad, really bad. It was like F tier bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a bit like there's a similar, like, there's a Fable now that puts the energy either to the top of their deck or back to their hand, I think.
Yeah, Prankish is it called, right?
Yeah, but obviously that's a Pokemon, and you could still use a supporter, you reuse it with Scoop Up there, and also the opponent's active as a basic Pokemon. So maybe like when the tag teams first come out, the odds of your opponent's Pokemon being a basic was very high, but nowadays it's probably F.
No, I'm F tiering this, and you're absolutely right. We could argue just the whole day of what kind of niche uses it has, but it's not going to talk it out of F tier. Now, I like this character, and for people who watched the first generation, Indigo League, and see Ash getting first beat up by her Kadabra, then we know what we're talking about. But I had so big hopes for a character card with Sabrina, and then Sabrina's suggestion is released, and then the card is absolutely okay. Yeah, it's bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
this was like I swear I saw someone use this in a Gengar Mimikyu deck, because like you can see like
sure,
but then obviously there was a stadium card that did the exact same effect, so then you would waste your supporter for the turn. So it's not great. It's a shame that it didn't be good, but most of these gym leader cards are being a bit average, sort of like from Gen 1 gym leaders. Most apart from Surge's Bus.
But that one didn't receive a full art. It didn't even receive a full art.
Which is really annoying, because you can't just have like a binder page with all of the gym leaders on the outside and then Red's challenge in the middle. Like,
you're so right. Well, okay. Why have they not done that is a mystery. But okay. Instead, we got Sabrina.
Yeah, it's very niche. I can imagine potentially, if you in a format where there's lots of different supporters being played, potentially it might be nice to see and give yourself options, but then if they've only got 2 or 3 cards in their top deck and you just got a dead card,
I like your explanation, Stephen, but I already F-tiered half a minute ago or something like that on
That's
screen.
fine. I can't see your screen, so we'll just move on.
No, that's why it makes it fun here, right? Because people will see your discussion now, and it's very valid points you're raising. They're very good. But I already placed an F tier because, well, let's face it, the card is an absolute F.
But fun fact, it's actually quite pricey. Team Up never received a reprint, and Sabrina is probably arguably in the top 3 gym leaders. If you ignore Misty and Brock for the anime reasons, Sabrina is in the top 3 of the other ones. And
you're absolutely right,
yeah.
And you're right. And this is going to be one of the interesting effects when you're going to see prices, right? Because I'm going to put this in, for instance, and it's not going to get a good score on how good it was. The artwork is so. It's okay, but the card itself is absolute trash. And then you're going to see that still the card is relatively expensive. And then you're going to have all kinds of other suggestions for why it's expensive. Well, we have our guesses, and they're pretty accurate, but let's just leave it what it's not very competitive, this card.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a whole nother discussion. Because one side note, like for full arts that weren't very playable but are very popular characters, let's say for example Erica's Hospitality. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that used Erica in decks because Erica was generally a decent card and there was less draw options back then. So how many people still have, those Ericas tucked away in decks, like not knowing or even remembering that they have
Have
them?
you
Or
seen how expensive Ericas is right now?
absolutely. So like there'll be slightly less, even though they're from the same sets and they're both very popular characters. There'll be slightly less Ericas available as a whole than Sabrina's, which were always just going to be put straight in a sleeve into a binder, and then people saw the prices go up, and then they'll just be more likely to sell them, or in my case, grade them.
Yeah, or you see a lot of cards coming by for grading, right? You even graded a couple of cards from me, right? Which you still have, by the way. Let's not forget that they're still there.
Yeah,
And but the next one I got for you. Talk me out of S tier, but I have Green's Exploration right in front of me.
I can't. It's like it's like Stefan's got his little mug. Change my mind. Green's Exploration is in. I try and change my mind, like on the table and in the park. Like
Yeah, indeed. Like
very few decks just make entire art. Very few supporter cards just make entire archetypes. Out of just out of the blue. Like
yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to think of many cards.
It's an amazing card. The card is...
Don't get me wrong. Welder is a strong card, but Welder, it's just a support to fire decks. There would be viable fire decks. We'll get to Welder later, but yeah, Greens is very powerful. Just the whole amount of different things that allow you to. Also, what I liked about this, there was a cards in Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft, called I think it was Reno Jackson or something. You had to play all of like odd or all of even number of requirements, so 1 or 2 odd or even requirement mana costs for your cards, and then you had to build a deck around like that specific strategy of only using a certain type to get the bonus from that Reno. And green, it's similar with green, but it makes you think like makes you think how to build a deck differently. It sort of throws out the whole like, oh, I need to play this amount of the Denes, I need to play these support cards. Instead you're thinking like, how do I make this deck as consistent as possible with greens, only having greens and potentially like a couple of other, like in a fire deck, greens Charizard, you've got your Welders, but it just made you think a lot more differently about deck building.
Oh yeah, now when you say it, Steven, you played a lot of green Sard. I remember that. You played it a lot, so you know a lot more greens.
And I took Gardevoir Sylveon to 2 League Cups as well, and I think 1 regional. So I think I played more greens decks than I played Welder decks. So and that's there was a lot of good Welder decks around after Unbroken, because they both came out in the same set. Welder and
I didn't play a lot of greens because a lot of the stall cards had abilities.
There's lots of supporters you didn't play, Steph.
There's a lot of things I didn't play, and but one of them I didn't play was Janine.
Have you already put greens in the S tier?
Green has been S tier from second 2. There was absolutely zero discussion that was not going to be S tier.
Just a side note. Once again, it's a very popular character. It's a Gen 1. It's the female character for I think Fire Red Leaf Green, and it was the female because you didn't have the original choice between the male and the female character in the original video game. So I think from Fire Red Leaf Green onwards, like green was the default sort of female character, and very popular artwork. And at the time I had to invest in these full arts to make my deck look nice, because I knew I was going to be playing them a lot.
Yeah, but green, no doubt about it, green's amazing. And I got Janine on the table for you now, and the discussion is a little different here. Like we can look at the top 4 and choose 2. So basically it's a reverse Underground Expedition. If you played Underground Expedition, then you see it. And I personally found Underground Expedition to be one of the most pretty cards. Like I really just liked the card so much, and I liked that you go under your deck essentially, because that was just atypical. It didn't happen very often.
Yeah.
This here is like you get to see 4 cards, but you only pick 2, but you get to see more. And typically when you drew, say 3 cards, whatever, if you actually played Hop, not that we did, but still, you still get to see 4. So it is only marginally better than, say, Hop and these kind of cards. Marginally.
Yeah, Sophocles,
Sophocles was still better because there was a discard synergy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this year, in my opinion, is just in an E tier. Just.
Absolutely. So we have to remember that there was a it was a Venomoth GX, and they had different attacks that were relevant with Janine and with Koga's Trap, and some people did play it when it came out, and it was a decent rogue deck for that. for a very limited format. But obviously, they didn't have a decent way of dealing with fire weakness, and it was just a very slow deck as a whole. It could be close to F tier, but just because it's just a draw card and it's just a nice budget option for some people, and it had that synergy with the with the Venomoth, and it's ET seems reasonable because I liked also that Janine and Koga. I think Janine's is Koga's partner in the TV show or the anime or whatever. And,
all the way back in Gen 1.
Yeah.
And, well, you mentioned Koga. Guess who's up next? And guess who's better?
Koga's Trap saw a lot of play.
Yeah, and it's a very good card, and very good in certain lock situations, or just, it's also a damage buff, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I swear, like, even some Toxtricity VMAX decks attempted to play this instead of like using the Garbodor to poison their opponent to get the extra damage.
That's a very interesting choice, I would like to say, but okay.
Yeah, it's definitely better than Janine, but it's very situational. Because a lot of the time you want to be doing big damage, and let's say for most attacking decks, you want to be doing the big damage, and if you are just confusing and poisoning your opponent's Pokemon doing the 10 damage, then
I just guessed the tier. So what do you think? I dropped it in somewhere, but where do you think I dropped it?
D.
Yes, exactly. Very good, Steven.
Hats on back.
That was really nice. And now, for something that I would like you to see if you can argue this one out of F tier. The card name is Molayne.
Molayne? I have to look through my list. Yes.
Yeah, because I don't think they're going to come much worse than this card. So try to
argue.
No.
This is probably the worst supporter card that I've pretty much ever seen since I started in 2016. Obviously, I mean, even just like a hop drawing cards, like you can just still put it in a kid's budget deck or theme deck, and then I'm drawing cards, and you're still progressing your board state slightly. But I
have seen one deck play this, and there was a funky deck where you played Mount Coronet, so you could actually get around this, cost.
Yeah,
and that was interesting. But
to shuffle a trainer card from your discard pile into your deck, surely for that cost of discarding 2 metal energies, you'd want to get the trainer card back into your hand. It's just so poor.
Yeah, it's very poor. Like, had it even gone back to your hand, the card would still have been pretty bad.
And it's not even got a waifu factor. It's not got any collectability factor. It's just like you need this for your Unbroken Bonds Master set move on.
I already F-tiered it. We don't have to discuss this any further. That card was trash. But what about the next one? It's better. It's called Red's Challenge.
Oh,
that card was very nice. I can tell you, I played it a lot in my Hoopa Gigas deck because this was the way around Persian.
Yeah, this is a really flexible card. This was, I believe, also played in Gramble.
100%.
Just because it unfortunately lost Thunder sort of rotated out quite quickly. But it was in Gramble for a little bit when Red's Challenge first came out. It's a nice flexible card for certain like single prize decks, for certain control variants. It's a nice flexible card. It's a bit underwhelming for most of the the usual just attach a bunch of energies and smack decks, because obviously you're not drawing 7 cards, you're not playing Welder, you're not playing greens, so it's a bit underwhelming for some decks. But it was an all around solid card, and probably, I mean, it should be somewhere between B and C, but I didn't see as much play. I'd probably put it in C myself.
C seems like a very good spot, and with putting it in C tier, we have now all tiers represented, Steven. Ooh.
Oh, nice.
But it's very bottom heavy, this distribution so far, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
So it's
there was a lot of filler in that. It's the supporters that we're getting now are slightly better, but not as much.
Speaking of slightly better, I'm pointing up on my screen right now because the next one that came up is not just slightly better, it's Welder.
Oh. So I was saying that Green's Exploration is probably the strongest card that I don't know about the strongest card, but I liked what it did for the format and how you could use it to build like new archetypes, and it made you think a bit more. And so I'm slightly biased because I played a lot of greens, but
if you don't S to your Welder.
The fact that they printed this card without they even test it, like even just attaching 1 fire and drawing 3, even just attaching the 2 energies and not drawing cards would have still seen a ton of play. But to have the hop and attaching 2 energies, like, it's just silly.
The card was broken. It's absolutely insane, this card. Like, if we don't S tier this, something is wrong. Like,
There needs to be an S plus or an A star, like an S tier, like I don't know, like
yeah,
some
this
kind.
is
Of,
this is
like,
it's
I'm,
high.
I'm I'm excited to try and figure out decks that still work really well without Welder. Cinderace is a nice one because you attach the energies from discard, and there's a whole bunch of other sort of funky. Victini, you only need 2 energies, so
Just
I'm
leave
excited.
Cinderace for Professor Cup.
Yeah, I'm just excited to just try and make fire decks work without. Oh, let's just stick 4 welders in, and just if we draw welders, we win. Make things a bit more flexible.
True. Now, that was an obvious S tier. That was easy. That was easy. But what about this one? I got Blues Tactics.
Lose tactics. Oh
I,
yes.
I've played this card before. It was quite nice. I played it with Executor Levani. That was quite nice. But very niche, I think, still.
Yeah, my Professor's Cup friend used it in his deck because it was a much slower single prize versus single prize format when you could happily just play the card if you had like 1 or 2 cards in your hand and just draw 8 at the end of the turn, just so you got some more
100%.
up for the next turn. But in terms of the actual meta, the standard meta where it was relevant, I never played it myself, and I never had it played against me. But the effect is powerful. Again, if we had access to Tapu Lele, it'd be nice potentially if we didn't have didn't have as much hand disruption, because unfortunately this came in the same set as Reset Stamp as well. So
Yeah, that was
it's
terrible.
but I don't think it's F because it's another like powerful draw effect that's nice for budget decks. It's a nice option, but I think E is probably balanced fine for this.
Very good. I also just put it in E tier. It's nice that I'm just going to put it somewhere and see if you come to the same conclusion. And you've been pretty spot on, I would say. Very good.
Yeah, I can't see your screen. For the people watching, I can't see his screen.
Oh, this is fun. This just makes it so much more fun. I must say that you can't see my screen because then I can make all these stunts. No, but next card. Have you played this? It is called Channeler.
Channeler. So this has actually seen play in the standard format.
Remove all effects of attacks on your and wait, what does it say? For you and each of your Pokemon. Sorry, there we go.
Yeah, like this has seen play. Annoyingly, this doesn't work for ADP because the effect of ADP is obviously on the person who played it.
Had this been effect hitting ADP, we would have talked very high tier just because of usage.
I swear that this has been played against me, and I just can't think off the top of my head now, just like what uses it has, like in the current standard format.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Because it was played against Steven, we should put it out of F tier.
I'm just trying to rack my brain to think. Have you got any thoughts about what effects that this could be useful for now?
Well, right now, of actual usage, no.
Yeah.
Like,
no.
And playing for that, the card is also like, it doesn't have any other factors going for it. Like, it has nothing going for it. So I'm F-tiering it if you have no arguments putting it up.
Yeah, I swear I have seen it used before, but I think F is fine on balance, and I think this is just one of the random characters from the Ghost Tower in Lavender Town.
Yeah, and as we said, had this been effective on ADP, for instance, we would have talked a much higher tier, simply just because Absolutely. It would defeat ADP essentially on its own.
Because even though like this is Unified Minds, the only time you would have had Tapu Lele and Chandler would have been that one World Championship format.
Yeah.
And like that would have been that, but
that was it. That was it.
Yeah, but now there's nothing for it, I don't think.
So, by the way, Steven, we can agree that drawing 3 is pretty bad. What about drawing 4 if you're active as a tag team?
Oh, is this Coach Trainer?
That is Coach Trainer indeed. So, it has 2 Pokeballs on its card. Using that plus, by that it goes to E tier in my opinion. Or does it go higher? Because it was actually quite played, saying Gardevoir Sylveon.
I was just about to say that. I did actually play this in Guardian because unlike Green's Charizard, where you have Volcanions, unlike like stuff nowadays that have Boltons and Tapu Koko VMAX or whatever, like I believe Gardevoir Sylveon was the only deck where you only just played I think I ran a Lugia GX in one of my builds to remove energies and stuff, but like this was always just a straight +4, so it was still better than Sophocles. It was obviously better than Hop, and a lot of the time you were getting decent value off it. but aside from that, it didn't see that. Well, I wouldn't have seen it play in any other deck, so probably E tier is fine. Maybe in Gengar Mimikyu, maybe like a quad Gengar deck.
Yeah, perhaps. But I'm just saying, like, that it had that even in some cases you could only draw 2, which was terrible. Like, you could risk having a coach trainer with your Lugia active. That did happen. And that would, of course, suck. But yay, that happens. But just because it could draw 4 and it did see play, it actually did see play, reasonable amount of play in that deck for sure, makes it an E tier instead of F.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, speaking of fringe usage and, can just win you the game if played rightly. Or played rightly, wow, is that a word? Even played right. Sorry, there we go. If it's played correctly, that's what I can say. Grimsley could win you the game. Grimsley. Yeah.
I've got all the photos in front of me, and I'm just trying to match my head with which one. Oh, that one's a Grimsley. Yes,
that's a Grimsley. And is it any good, Stephen? I would say no, but please change my mind.
This saw play in some deck that I can't remember. I remember Grimsley being moving damage counters from like one to another, to like just to knock them over. I think it's still some kind of spread damage deck, but yeah. I can't remember if I can't remember the deck, then it's probably F tier.
It is not. A couple of days ago, I saw Pedro being beat on this on his stream for fun when he played against Orbeetle.
Yeah.
And they just around and they surprise dropped the Grimsley, and well, sad Pedro. That was all I saw.
Yeah, that's quite spicy in Orbeetle, because you're just putting so much damage counters around. Sometimes they just try and put a big charm on just to survive for one turn.
Yeah, or they're like, I'm going to wait a turn playing my Cheryl because I can last one more turn, and then Grimsley is dropped, and then oops.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I can't remember like any more. I guess if some of the other cards in F tier saw no play, I have seen Grimsley around, and it's I think E could be still.
I just put it in E, and that was for the hope that indeed this actually can win you the game. It actually really can do something.
It has an application, and I have seen it played, and even you've seen it played as well, which is just more than you can say from Mulane.
You're absolutely spot on.
Yeah, you saw Mulane play, but yeah, very, very niche, very niche.
Oh, this next card here, I played it. I wonder if you played it, and it definitely has some waifu factor going for it, if you know what I'm meaning here. It has a lot of pink hearts, and it's Misty. Misty's favor.
So, Psypoke, this was only played in the Slowduck and Psypoke. Slowpoke and Psyduck GX tag team.
Or a unknown hand deck also saw this one.
I only played against the Salazzle version. I don't believe I ever played.
This could also play. It did have usage, and the card is pretty, no doubt, and it has synergy with Lapras, I believe. They could actually pick them up again.
Yeah, so the Slowduck deck, you'd have the Lapras, you get them back out, and you very easily, well, not very easily, but you reliably could do 240-ish like every turn.
Yeah, so my take on this is that I'm actually between D and E on this one. But is it enough to bump it up?
I think if the archetype itself was stronger and it saw more success, but I think like Slowpoke was, it was weak to electric or grass, and there was a lot of these. It didn't really match up well against like Pikarom and stuff. I think E's quite reasonable for this. As it's Misty, and if you're trying to incorporate some collectability into the rankings, then it bumps it up to D, because
and also
very expensive considering how little play it saw.
It's very expensive. Anybody who doesn't know the price of this card, go and check it out. I'm gonna D tier for now, but maybe somebody else has a complete other opinion. They may even A tiered because I love Misty, but hey, we cannot defend that decision.
It would be A tier in Andrew Mahone's list.
Oh, surely, but Mahone, come and tell us why this is A tier or S tier. Let us know. He probably has some opinions. I don't know, but I have an opinion about this next one. It's an amazing card. It's fantastic. The guy is dressed up as a Slowpoke. What more do you want? Like, come on. Like, I played it also the Professor Cup because I played Licky Licky. So I got away with playing Pokemaniac, and I don't know about you guys out there, but let's be honest, in normal standard format, this card is, well, not very good, but the guy's dressed as a Slowpoke, like, instant S tier. Talk me out of
it. So his dress and his like demeanor reminds me of something you might see in a dungeon or some kind of very sordid place, but let's not get into that too. Let's not get into that.
Let's keep that aside for never.
But, the card itself is kind of like one of these synergy cards with very specific archetypes that you can't really splash it into other decks. And I think there was a Steelix deck where you had to I think you discard a certain amount of Pokemon with retreat cost of 4, and you do a certain amount of damage. But
indeed,
very niche. I think your Licky Licky is probably potentially a bit more relevant because of the retreat costs and stuff. But I would say E is probably a fair reflection of this one.
We are E-tiering a lot today, but we're just being honest here. This is just E-tier. So now even people seeing I'm E-tiering so much that I actually have to start stacking them a little. And that just shows how much goes in E-tier in this episode. It's quite extreme. So we're starting to stack the supporters a bit because I have a feeling that's not the last E-tier coming, maybe. So who's up? Giovanni's Exile is up.
Giovanni's Exile. So this, I swear I never played this in any deck until I started running Mad Party. There might have been other decks that had used for Giovanni in the past that I can't. Oh, there wasn't there a card where you discarded? Was it like the Rhyhorn thing?
Yeah, no, the Rhydon. So if you played this card, it would mill like 5 or something for a DC, and if you discarded Diglets, it also milled an extra card.
So that was I believe that was a solid tier 2 deck for like 1 or 2 formats. I remember.
Maybe
that.
tier 2 on a good day, but it was a nice deck. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, but nowadays, for my actual relevant playing experience and decks that I've played with and played against, this is absolutely clutch in Mad Party, especially against ADP. So Mad Party has 2 to 3 Dedenes, maybe a Crobat sometimes, and very few other decks have like. So unfortunately, there's a slight drawback on this card where you have to not have any damage counters on your Pokemon. So certain decks can very easily put damage counters on the Dedenne and the Crobats. Because you're playing a single prize deck, you don't want them to knock out your Dedennes and take 2 prizes. You want to force them to have to knock out, 6 Mad Party Pokemon. So this is very strong in Mad Party. But aside from that, but I think this is finally a card that we can move out of E tier. I think maybe even C tier, just because of the application.
I would C tier it based because I actually played in other things as well. So there was all these clutch decks where, for instance, you want to Omastar lock them or something like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of control variants where this can go slot in, but this is a very key card in Mad Party, especially against ADP, because you
100%. And well, the card has it's Giovanni still. It's not Boss's Order Giovanni, but it's Giovanni.
And it's nice. It's nice that they put some popular cards in Hidden Fates, so it just makes them nice for collectors to get hold of them. They're not paying like 20-30 quid for like if it's put in one of the other tag team sets. Runs.
I like that you say collectible, and the next card I flip to is Jesse and James.
Perfect. Because it's going in release order. That makes sense.
Yeah, you see it now, right?
Yeah.
And what you're seeing right now is a Jesse and James card, and you've seen it played in all kinds of annoying things. Very annoying things. Hand blocks, especially. Ooh.
Like I even had a version of Green's Charizard with this, where you could, reset stamp them to 2 or 3, and then Jesse and James them, and then they cried. I didn't use that version as much, but it was a nice option to have. This is a very strong card.
I'm very biased.
When you have it with Lieutenant Surge's strategy, I'd probably. It's a tough one. I think you'd probably put it in A. Personally, I'd put it in B because it didn't see much play outside of the decks that had the time to use it. And
let's be fair. Had I had to make this list all on my own, anything that was used in a stall or control deck would just have been S tier, so that would not have been fair. But let's be realistic here. It's a good B tier card in my opinion. It is a good B tier card.
Absolutely.
The card is fun. It's also like, yes, you have to discard yourself, but that was typically not always a problem. But you can just catch some people off guard also sometimes.
Absolutely, and also it's because it features Jesse and James, Meowth, and the whole squad's there. It's
you forgot
Buffett. The whole squad is there. The whole squad is there. There's no Inkay, there's none of the other obscure like one season Pokemon, but because the whole team is there, and it's very much the Team Rocket card. There isn't that many Team Rocket. Obviously, you got the Team Rocket one from the
way back.
Set, but that's just those two, and this is a bit more modernized and it's a bit more fun, and it's very you can still pick this card for under like €10 because of all the many Hidden Fates reprints that happen.
Very true.
And every time we don't get reprints of Hidden Fates, it just goes up, and then the reprint it drops down. So this can only go one way once we stop receiving Hidden Fates reprints.
I got the next card I got for you is an F tier candidate. It is called Aether's Foundation Employee.
Oh god, this saw no play in any shape or capacity.
Exactly. That was already the reason enough for me just to instantly F tier it, and unless you have a good argument, we just carry on with the next one.
From discard pile, if it was getting the Alolan Pokemon from the deck into your hand, that could be quite funky because then you could set up a bunch of things. But
Cool.
Pointless.
Pointless. Pointless sums it up, and I'm just going to quickly
as,
go on.
As a side note, like that, they really messed up with that whole Alolan synergy. They could have done so much more with the Pokemon with Alolan. They're doing slightly better with the Galarian, but nowhere near.
No. We have to go way back in the day to find some good synergy for these kind of things, but nowadays, no, they just fail.
Very poor.
Ooh, I like this card, but it's unfortunate. I don't think it's very good, but I like it. It's Fisherman.
Yeah. So this was because it's an older card, like it's a very old card. It get reprints a lot. The problem is in the format the Fisherman came out, the reprint of Fisherman came out in Celestial Storm, and then obviously the full art was in the Shiny Vault in Hidden Fates. Like that the format just really there was very little application for Fisherman. And now like even water decks might use it. They got Nessa, so there's no real sort of application for this. There was a lot of use for it. Like I vaguely remember, like Volcanion decks would use it. There was back in the day, but nowadays there's just so little, use for this because there's the one deck that wants to flood energies from your hand.
You're so true.
Has Nessa. So
but also, of course, like you said yourself, Nessa first came later, so there was a window for this, and it has been played. Like it did see play, and sometimes a Fisherman could really just seal the game.
Yeah, I can't remember like when Sword and Shield came out, though. Anyone that was running like Lapras was even using Fisherman, but I don't even know if I can't remember any Lapras decks.
But I would argue this can sneak up into an E tier.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, it's definitely E tier. For the meta that it came out in, definitely E tier. But it just gets outclassed by lots of other supporters.
Yeah.
At the moment.
No, that was it for the Fisherman. Now, I wish I could use this card more, but Hiker. Like, the idea was fun. It's a chip Ice Axe where you can see more. But the fact that you had chip anyway made this card utterly useless, in my opinion. Yes, you could look at your own deck as well, sure, but did you ever do that?
Look at the top card. No, I've never seen Hiker played against me or with me, so I've never used Hiker. I've never seen it played against me.
But I'm going to share you the pain and F tier.
It seems like a much worse chip because you can't use your supporter for the turns. Yeah.
Indeed. So I'm going to do you a favor and just F tier and then we carry on because, sorry guys, for anybody out there that wanted a nice story about Hiker, I don't have any for you. This is not the card.
This is Stefan Eriksson who loves his weird obscure support card.
But it's
like for his control decks. Like he's got no reason to put this anywhere other than F tier.
Sometimes I wanted it really bad, right? Because you could see top 5, but you shuffle the rest even. You don't even order the top, right? So, no. Just no. There was Chip. Chip were like infinitely better. So, no thank you, guys. I'm not playing Hiker. Prove me wrong that it was used. Surely it was used, obviously. But I would like to hear your stories about when it was better than Chip. Be my guest. But for now, we're going to go on to the lady.
She's a lady.
Yup, and besides that, no.
So, I swear I just saw playing something because this is a Forbidden Light reprint. So I'm just trying to remember back to when Forbidden Light, reprint.
So, if any of you have tuned in late in the video now and hearing now Steven go like, I swear I remember something, this is only the 20th time he said it in the video, so don't worry about it, you didn't miss anything.
So that's your deck corrupt the board 4 basic energy cards and put it into your... Yeah, Forbidden Light. There was something that but for when this came out on Hidden Fates, it didn't see any play. No.
No.
So probably F tier.
But for now, F tier. But it's been around before a card like this, and back in the day, where you can search your deck for 4 and 10, it was better. It was used a bit, but at this time here, no. F tier, 100%. Something that's not F tier. And something both you and I have played 100%. And there's not only one person on, there's 2, and the names are Cynthia and Caitlin.
We're in Cosmic Eclipse.
We
Finally,
are,
we can get some stuff
yeah.
out of F tier. Finally.
Ooh, we're getting. Now we're gonna dump something in the higher end of the ladder here because you were not in the episode where we discussed Lucamine, and well, Lucamine was broken. One was innocent. Two Lucamines were broken. Cynthia Caitlin, if they have not written that you couldn't pick up a Cynthia and Caitlin on this card here, this would have been broken on its own right. So it's a great card. It has so much synergy with tag teams.
Yeah. So when we're talking about these tag team cards, you always have to mention how powerful having tag call in your deck to be able to
100%.
be able to give you the flexibility to either search for a tag team supporter that you need for that specific term, or in the case of Guard. I think the strongest deck where they used tag calls in was Guard of our Sylveon because you had so many different options. You could give Mahala for like
Yep.
the weakness energy. You could get your tool card. But Symphony and Caitlyn specifically is just very powerful effects, especially in the Green Charizard. Like more sort of recently, it's nice as an option to have. Like you get a tag call in you Green's Exploration on your first turn. You get a tag call and probably a Greens for next turn, and then you're still getting your Reshiram Charizard, and you can choose the flexibility of do I want a Mallow and Lana potentially for next turn, or the Cynthia and Caitlyn to potentially get support back later and stuff. So it's just it's a very flexible card, and because it probably wouldn't have seen as much play if it wasn't a tag team and you could use it, get it out of tag call, but it's still a very nice effect to have, and probably I don't think it's as sort of game breaking because of the drawback of not being able to get another Cynthia and Caitlyn, and you can't find stadium cards like Luzamine could,
Yep.
as potentially like as Mallow and Lana or Guzma and Hala, but it's somewhere between B and A for me. But
Like, I'm willing to, because of the whole synergy, and because it has so many, it's very flexible, the card. And the card was just nice when you drew it. You could always do something. So for that reason alone, and you can go in pretty much any deck, I'll put in an A tier for that reason.
yeah, because at very worst it was a hop, so you got your free cards.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I would like to make a note here as well. I've forgotten to put in a picture for a card I know we should have had, and that's Misty and Lorelei. So my apologies for forgetting that on the list here. So we are going to take Misty's and Lorelei right now, but I'm not going to be able to have a picture for it.
We never got that full art in English.
No, wait, you're absolutely right. It's because I was just looking at tag team support, and maybe I just wanted a full art for that card. So you see how well I can control my full arts. Damn.
Yeah. So side note, like it's such a shame that we never got an English release for GX Tag All Stars.
Yeah, because that was where I got it from. Because I knew there was a full art, but not in English.
Like there were so many beautiful cards, like the Charmander with the the reds, the Green's Exploration, the Squirtle, those Kanto starters with the actual Pokemon.
We missed out so
my
much.
hope is that because we're getting a busted 25th anniversary set potentially later in the year, that they're gonna have another shiny vault or a separate vault where you can, or with an old regulation marks new rotation, that we're gonna have those cards still. But I think if it's not this year, it's never coming.
You mean it's a set where it's going to break our wallets, right?
Absolutely. That's also Chilling Reign. That's 250 plus cards, 60 plus secret rares. But
they're making the sets too big. I'm just going to state it right here. The sets are too big. Stop.
In Japan, why are we getting dual sets after the start of a block? Like, it makes no sense.
It's way too much. But okay. That aside, I have Guzman Hala for you. And first of all, I want to say this artwork is great. I like this artwork.
Absolutely, because they're both like practicing their V moves. There's Z moves. This looks really cool.
And the card is good. The synergy is there. Like we're up in the same synergy level as Cynthia Caitlyn. It had so many uses. Find your stadium, special energy tool. Like there's not many things that could search for these things.
No, it gave you the flexibility. Well, what I like about cards like Guzma Hala, Green's Exploration, is it makes you think a bit more about your deck building and the choices of your cards. So if you wanted to put a one-off tool card in your deck, like let's say you're not playing greens, you wanted to play a one-off tool card in your deck, Guzma and Hala gave you that option, and because it gives you special energy as well, like it was really really good in decks like Spiritomb. You could get yourself the special darkness energy, the a big charm or tough capeness, plus cape of toughness, or like chaotic swell, and even and this was really good in Gardevoir and Sylveon, because you had your 4 tag calls, so you pretty much would always get your Guzma and Hala, so you could get you could do your fairy song, you could get whatever the equivalent was, a big charm back then. You know, there was a
Yeah,
lot of
I'm just sitting here
flexibility.
thinking now when you mention Spiritomb, there's coming this new stadium that says when you attach to something that's not Psyche, you get 20 damage, right?
Yeah,
That's also nice to Spiritomb. Like, you can literally
yeah.
find everything on this card. It's
It might
actually,
be a bit better than Spikemuth because it's a bit more situational.
indeed.
Uh, but
So,
yeah, Guzmahala is.
way more.
I think Guzmahala is slightly more powerful as a whole than Sintry and Caitlyn, but I guess it depends what decks you like and what
But I
decks you
don't
play.
think it's S tier powerful. I think it just goes A tier along with it.
Absolutely, but that's if there was like a breakdown of like 20 tiers, I'd put it a slight tier above Sintry
Sure,
and Caitlyn
but
because of just giving you free cards guaranteed from your deck. And
I could have made like more tiers, but no. Like, this is enough for this here. And
absolutely,
I got a card here that I didn't play before I played Professor Cup now. Because, let's face it, Lily's full force. Draw 4 is strong, but it would leave you only with 2 cards because you had to shuffle the rest of your hand in your deck. So you could draw 4 and you could preserve a lot of things for later. I personally think it's underused. Like, I think so.
yeah. So originally, nobody ever thought about it to use it as a draw card in its own right. This was only used in the very sort of niche Solgaleo and Lunada deck to get the GX effects off and make it immune to attacks or I don't have the card in front of me, but you
Indeed.
needed to have played Lily's full force to get the effect of the GX attack, I think.
No.
So it did see a little bit of play in that deck, but that was a very niche kind of tier 2, tier 3 deck. As the card on itself, like it could be good in a deck where you have to discard cards and get stuff in the discards. So getting the flat draw 4 first gives you more
Yeah.
options, and then
It's not bad, and it's not F tier in my opinion because of this.
no, absolutely not, absolutely not. To be honest, any draw cards pretty much that just draw you cards never should be in F tier because you'd rather have those.
Except Hop and Charon and such. Like, come on.
I mean, even like worst case scenario, like you're getting your plus 3, you're still drawing cards. It depends on the deck, I guess, and the format and what's available for the format. But for the
It's good.
most,
It's good you're not evaluating the plus 3 cards because I can tell you every other plus 3 card we evaluated so far has been a solid F.
I guess I play a lot of theme decks. I play a lot of budget decks with the kids at my league and stuff. So I'm trying to think about the whole applications, but
That's
most
true.
people only care about standard formats. So,
I
but yeah,
like the new one.
Lily's full force E tier seems reasonable because it also had that synergy with Solgaleo and Lunala, and that once again another very expensive card because of tier S waifu and Cosmic Eclipse being the largest set of all time and
You
hard to
are
keep.
so right.
No reprints of Cosmic Eclipse are coming. So yeah.
No, you're absolutely so right. And we go from Lily's full force and E tier to something that's probably a lot higher because I'm looking at our tag team supporter again, and it's Mallow and Lana. That card,
Great.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna put it in A tier, but it's close to be S tier in my opinion. I think the card is so good.
Absolutely. The problem is, like, at the moment, are the only two S's Greens and Welder? Are they the only two in the S?
Yeah, currently for this year it's that. But of course, we had more visitors in S tiers in other episodes as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
To give you an example, like Professor Sycamore was an S tier. Come on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I'm just thinking like Mallow and Lana is a very powerful card, but when you're comparing it to the likes of get game breaking, meta changing cards that also had entire decks built out of the ground up just because of them existing, like no deck just exists just because Mallow and Lana is a card.
Nope, you're absolutely right.
But it was super helpful. Like Gardevoir Sylveon would have been probably nowhere near as strong as it was without having the flexibility or being able to heal because a lot of decks weren't doing huge one shots like they are nowadays. Apart from probably like Blacephalon GX and the Baby Blounds from a Broken Bond. Very few decks were doing those big one shots back then. So Mallow and Lana was always pretty much healing you pretty much from a 2-shot into a 3-shot for a lot of decks.
It's amazing. The card is great.
And beautiful artwork. Again, amazing synergy with Tag Call. Like you could even take the flexibility of getting either the Mallow or the Symphony and Caitlyn if you were playing another supporter or whatever.
It was so good. Like the card looks nice. The characters are very known characters from the anime as well.
And Lucario Melmetal would not be nowhere near as strong as it is.
It would be dead in the water without it.
Without Mallow and Lana, yeah. So definitely A tier, but if you're comparing it against Welder and Greens, you probably couldn't put it in the same tier as them. But It's a very nice card, and much most, there's so many like tag team and VMAX decks that would just just pick it in just as a nice option. And then because you're running the tag core engine, you've got Cynthia and Caitlyn, you could get it back as well. So you'd be able to use 2 or 3 Mallows just for you just got 1 in your deck against single prize decks as well. So it was a really good like long term sort of safety card as well.
I'm already looking at the next card here because I'm just sitting here like and thinking. This one is the card that people hope would be better. People tried it, and then they realized they blew themselves up too many times when they tried to play Ends Resolve.
I thought you said like a card that you thought might have been better when it was announced. I thought you were talking about the Professor Oak one.
No, but N is like, when it came out, people were like, oh, I'm going to play this with ADP or whatever, and tried it out first.
Yeah, so they saw, the problem is people saw when Cosmic Eclipse, or Dream League as it was called in Japan, was announced, and also in Japan, so Reshiram and Zekrom and ADP was in another Japanese set. There were 2 different sets. So I think Dream League came first. People were just like going crazy about Reshiram and Zekrom, potentially the power of Reshiram and Zekrom.
Yeah.
Potentially like how strong it could be, like the amount of damage you could do, then also the effects of using End Resolve with Reshiram and Zekrom to decimate their bench, to decimate the opponent's bench. And people were so focused on Reshiram and Zekrom looking at that, and then there was just a small group of people that just saw ADP and just realized how incredibly busted that effect, the amount of HP it had. Reshiram and Zekrom was capped at 270, and we didn't have Galarian Zigzagoon back then, so they needed exactly they needed a way of doing 10 damage, and you didn't even have Vitality Ban. That was in that
came later.
Came later, so it was a lot tougher to do that extra 10 damage. So people just played ADP, it blew everything out of the water, and then Reshiram and Zekrom just couldn't keep up with ADP and pretty much a whole bunch of other decks. It was just very slow to set up if you relied on End Resolve, or if you relied on a Nag and Adele engine to get all the energies back from your discard piles. So theoretically, it seemed End Resolve seemed really good at the time when combined with that. But any card really that aside from maybe the Gyarados from Team Up, any card that sort of or attacker, like when you're relying on discarding cards from the top of your deck to do any sort of reasonable amount of damage, it doesn't not really been good in my last couple of years of play.
No, and you're absolutely correct. I think you have to go very far back to find a card that was actually really good enough, depending on discarding top cards from your own deck. And by that, I'm thinking of Charizard Delta, but that's way before your time, so we have to go far back.
The Gyarados from Team Up was a solid tier 2 attacker in certain matchups, but it wasn't very consistent. But you could do again, the tag teams just had too much HP. The reason that Gyarados was good because you could one shot most of the GX, but as soon as tag teams came out, the HPs went up and a lot more. Single prizes just
it exploded.
Yeah.
So,
tier ranking probably.
Yeah, I'm thinking
probably it should be somewhere between F and E. I don't remember actually seeing any play outside of people attempting to try and make it work in that Reshiram deck. Which was
I played against it in events also, and simply because it's acceleration should be rewarded, in my opinion. For that reason, I'm E-tiering it, in my opinion.
It was only on the bench. It was only on the bench as well.
Sure.
I'd probably put it in F, but it should be. There are worse F cards, so it has an argument for E.
So I'm willing to say E tier, but I can also put an F tier if you really stand on that. But I think it's definitely be one of the best F tier cards then.
There are much worse. And I think if ADP hadn't released the same set, 270 damage would have been great against Charizard Reshiram and all sorts of other stuff.
So okay, that comes to the card you thought I was talking about earlier. Now I am talking about it, and it's Professor Oak's setup.
Yeah,
not bad card.
This was so at the time, because it looks like it was good. The problem is we didn't have Tapu Lele once Cosmic Eclipse came out. So
had we had it, this would have been different.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but had we had Tapu Lele, this would have been a completely different story.
Because you could get Ditto Prism, Zorua, and Rockcraft. If it was just a few months early, you could play it in Zoroark for a bit. It gives you. So that way you could opt to play the 70 HP ones, or you could get higher, stuff with higher HP and stuff. Like you get Buzzwole GX out if you're playing Zoroark Buzz. Just lots of other synergy. I think this was good for No, I'm confusing this with Elm's Lecture now. So I thought this was good in Lost March. I can't remember what deck this was played in, but I think
Well,
it was. I think this tier. I think this could be a tier E card.
yeah, it's not a great card, to be honest. Like, I hope much more for it. Like, I even played a Professor Cup. Professor Cup is different, obviously, but in normal formats, we are again talking a lower tier, unfortunately. I wish it was higher, but it's not. It's like D tier already seems very generous, in my opinion. Very generous.
I just can't remember. Like
No.
I know I say this a lot over the thing, but there was some decks that were using this, but it just, again, without having Tapu Lele, having to play 4 cards and then hoping to draw into it naturally, and especially when the supporter rule came out, it was just very bad.
I'm going to save you a lot of time, and I'm going to E tier it.
Yeah.
Simply that the card was not absolute trash, but, wished for more playability, but yeah, too bad. Now, we don't have many left, but this is the last tag team supporter for today, and it is the lesser of all the tag team supporters, in my opinion. We are missing red and blue.
You say the lesser, like
I think it's the lesser when you compare it.
Misty and Lorelei has had its uses in control variants.
Yeah, let's say that. That's why I'm super biased when it comes to that card, of course, because I played it so much, Misty and Lorelei's, because the card was so busted with Articuno. It was insane. But red and blue, tell me that you played it or something. Like, I don't think so, but
so I didn't play it, but I had a lot of Dark Box decks play this against me, where they could evolve their Weavile
Weaviles, right?
And use it with Zorak and Greninja or the Dark Pulse, or you can use Umbreon Darkrai. The Dark Box never ever got above a mid tier 2 sort of deck in terms of the power rank, but a lot of people did use this in Dark Box, and it's a very wordy card, so a lot of people are still trying to get their head around it, and there was a lot of weird rulings around it. But
yeah, there's one thing the card is going for it. That's Tack Call. That it can still combine with Tack Call.
Which is another reason why I love the tag team cards so much. Is that, without Tapu Lele, having, Tag Call just gave you so much flexibility of how you build your deck, what tag team supporters you could include. Because also in the Dark Box, you could get like the Darkrai Umbreon and the red and blue on your second turn, evolve up your Sneasel to Weavile, get the 2 energies, move the energies from the Weavile to the Darkrai Umbreon, and then do the snipe or do the damage. So,
I'm learning a lot today, because I faced a few Dark Boxes, but not as much as you did, I can hear. Like,
no, again, it's not very strong, but I think the effects, like, I don't think it's E. And it also was played a lot in Silvally GX. So Silvally was a nice partner. You could evolve the Silvally up, and then you could.
I D-tiered it. I D-tiered it. You convinced me. It's fine.
D's fine. There is argument for the first meta this came out in. It was a bit slower before people got used to ADP. So potentially C, but D's fine. D's fine for this.
Yeah, and that we are only down to 2 actually. If I'm not mistaken, we have only 2 cards left, and the first card is an F tier card. You already mentioned a few times. So which one do you think it is?
Roller Skater.
Yeah, Roller Skater, and I'm just gonna F tier it.
This guy had, yeah. I actually lost in the Players' Cup 4 qualifiers yesterday to a Blacephalon deck a Baby Blounds deck that was playing Salazzle to Salazzle to draw to discard and draw fire, and it discard the fire, draw cards, and then they could just they played 4 crystals, 4 energy retrievals, and they were just powering through that deck that way. But I think it was just more of a budget version because they probably didn't have to. They're actually in.
You know what? That just sounds sad for you also.
Yeah,
Did you stream it?
I think so. Yes, it was on the PlaySkape Games Twitch stream. You can watch the VODs back if you are so inclined to see me lose against.
I should go and take a look at that. That sounds like fun to see.
But F tier generally, yes.
And then we have something I don't think is F tier. I think the card is way too good for that.
I was hoping this would pop up earlier. This is such a good card.
It's so good, but you're actually going to finish today with this card. How does that sound like?
It's almost an S tier waifu and almost an S tier card. Like,
it has everything. This card is really, really good.
If we had like a separate ranking for playability and collectivity, this would probably be the highest out of all of them, because Green's Exploration is a popular character. Welder, like, who knows what Welder is, but like Rosa and the effects. So this is still seeing a lot of play in Decidueye, Obstagoon, any Stage 2 decks outside of maybe Cinderace or attacking Stage 2 decks. They still like classic sort of Obstagoon decks, like having access to rare candy, the Pokemon, and the energy for the attacking. It's very powerful because you don't really want to be using Professor's Research too much because you've only got a certain amount of resources. You don't want to discard your candies early. And you're sticking out Lily's Pokédoll. When your Lily's Pokédoll gets knocked out, it still triggers the effect because it counts as a Pokemon. So it's a very...
You put up some very compelling arguments, Stephen. This is I S-tiered it.
You S-tiered this?
I S-tiered it because, well, you could go for an A on this one, but again, art has something to say, a little at least. The playability is, no doubt it's super good.
At the time, Rosa was played in quite a few of the Stage 2 decks, and but I can't remember, like, because now it's only in the Decidueye Obstagoon.
Yeah, okay, so you could even play it in Control. Like, Guru Control was also saw Rosa play. It was a really good card, and so... Yeah, I S-tiered it, and maybe somebody gets very upset about that S-tier out there. Like, who knows? You can always...
By competitiveness alone and the the impact on the meta and the amount of play that cards... By this tier ranking, like, we're only going by what the actual cards were doing, then... I think S is very generous, but
perhaps
A is definitely is as powerful as the likes of Guzmahala, as the likes of Malo and Lana, so... For me, it would be an A tier all day.
Little sniffle from here, but I can see it. I was maybe getting overexcited by S tiering this because the card is amazing. Prove me wrong. Anybody dares to try and prove me wrong.
Cards. It's again very expensive. Again, one print run of Cosmic Eclipse. We're not getting the reprint in April because it got cancelled because they're focusing on the next format because the world's been cancelled. So it's a real shame that we get this. But
also again, there you have
people want the cards. They have to buy them now before they keep going up.
Yeah, and there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That was not only me listening to Steven, actually, downgrading it from S tier to A tier. How could you? But this was us rating the remaining Sun and Moon Full Art supporters. It has been quite a bottom-heavy distribution. A lot of F tiers, a lot of E tiers. We did see our fair share of also S and A, so it's not been all too bad. Steven, thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. I think that you're so there are so many competitive like Pokemon YouTube channels out there, but what you offer is so distinctly different, focusing on maths, statistics, talking about full art supporters, like that you offer such a sort of a diverse range of topics. You're not just like, oh, here's the next busted deck, this is why you should play it. Like, I really like the content you're producing because it's just different, and it really makes you think, and it really does help, as well as just you're learning about cards, but you're also learning to be a better player at the same time, as opposed to just playing just decks just for the sake of getting views and stuff. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It really means a lot. Like, I'm happy that somebody can learn from this, and I'm doing it because, well, I like the game. We all love the game here, no doubt. And I'm just happy that some people would find my content interesting. And I hope for whoever has been watching this, listening to this maybe, that, well, you will leave a nice comment behind, or I always take suggestions for improvement, and maybe you agree with this list. Maybe you don't. Let us hear it. It's certainly been a lot of fun making this list with you, Stephen. So thanks again for joining today, and thanks for the kind words. Really, thank you.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to collaborating, hopefully, sooner again in the near future.
Well, maybe next time I'll join you on your channel. Who knows? But
that's a great idea.
With that said, ladies and gentlemen, this was another episode of Pokémath. We only got one episode left of these rankings, so we're going to do Sword and Shield on next time. But with that said, this was another episode of Pokémath. My name is Stefan Eriksson, and, well, until next time. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.